next guest saying the Magnificent Seven should be rebranded the Fantastic Four. On that list, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, and Nvidia. That stock pointed more gains in the pre-market this morning. This after a 16% spike yesterday, juicing markets all around the world. Joining us right now, Dan Niles, founder and senior portfolio manager of the Satori Fund. Good morning to you. I was going with the fancy four. Fancy four, we liked.
I like the word fancy.
Well, I'm a superhero fan, so I had to go with the Fantastic Four. So what can I tell you?
I hear you. But why don't you just explain why you're taking three off the list? I'm curious about, actually.
Well, I think if you look at the last 2 years, really stock prices were driven by the Fed. So you go back to 2022, the Fantastic or the Magnificent Seven, as they called them, were down 46% during that period of time. And that was because we had the fastest rate hikes in history, had very little to do with earnings. You go back to last year, the Magnificent Seven were up 111% over that same period of time. Again, not really earnings driven. Every stock went up because Fed was on hold. People were at one point expecting up to 7 rate cuts. And so multiples expanded across the board and stocks ripped. Right now, where you are is earnings seem to be driving a differentiation among these names. So Apple, after they reported their December quarter, estimates went down again from March. For Tesla, similar situation. And if you look at Google in that group, they did well in their AI-related business, Google Cloud, but their big business, which is search, which is what they're known for, and YouTube, both of those categories missed. Meanwhile, you had Meta blowing out numbers. If you look at those three that I dropped off the list, that's what they all have in common. The earnings are struggling. They're having issues with competition. And I think you're seeing that in the stock prices where Apple, Tesla are both down this year. Google's underperforming the market. And then the Fantastic Four are absolutely doing great because the numbers for 3 of the 4 went up a ton. And, Microsoft, obviously, ChatGPT, they own 49% of OpenAI, massive benefit for that for them. So that's why we've dropped those 3 off the list. It's competition issues.
Okay, so of the Fantastic or Fancy Four, as we're going to call them here on Squawk, which one do you like the most? You're only allowed to own one.
If I had to own one just from a risk-reward basis, I'd probably go with Meta. It was my top pick, one of my top 5 picks last year. The stock, obviously tripled last year, almost tripled. And if you look at it this year, it's also doing well. And the reason why I like it is they're using AI to help drive content recommendations so people are more engaged with the platform. They're using it to drive better ad monetization. And if you think about this year, your segment before was talking about the election coming up. It's going to be the most hotly contested election we've ever seen with tons of advertising. And that's really going to benefit Meta during that period of time as well. And it's growing high teens, but you can buy it at a 24 PE. The entire market's trading at, the S&P is trading at 21 times. So it's got this great combination of low valuation, fast growth, and a presidential election that's a nice kicker towards the end of the year. And so that's why that's probably my top pick.
What do you think of Nvidia? I mean, some people think that this has so much more room to run, and others say it has run too far.
Well, there's a time element and a multiple element to this. So if you go back to the tech bubble, which we all lived through, Cisco at the time was the most valuable company in the world. Nvidia is now the 3rd most valuable company. But during the peak of that bubble, Cisco was growing revenues close to 60%, but it had a PE of 138 times. Nvidia grew revenues at just over 100% last year, forecasted to grow 90% this year. Cisco peaked at 138 times. Nvidia is at 35 times. There's a whole group of semiconductor companies that actually have higher PE ratios than Nvidia does, believe it or not. So, and Nvidia is enabling the AI revolution. And don't forget, we never even heard of ChatGPT until November of 2022. That tech bubble, you could argue, started in 1995 when this new thing called the internet, what's that, showed up. And it took 5 years for you to actually build to that peak. So this is a year and a quarter or so since ChatGPT showed up. I think you have a long more way to go before you kind of get to that peak level of euphoria, if you want to call it that, because we're nowhere near that yet.
What about Google?
Google's the one that I want to get long. We're short it right now because I look at Google and I go, everybody's sort of written them off in this AI race, but they have more data than anyone. The problem is they have this cash cow called search that they're trying to defend. The problem is things like ChatGPT are growing incredibly rapidly, and a lot of people are using that for conversational results instead of tapping through 10 blue links to try to find what you want. You could interact with an AI, and then that'll tell you what hotel you want by talking to you and asking you, hey, you know, do you like a gym? Do you want a 4-star restaurant? And then it'll tell you, well, this is what you should pick. And so I think that's the issue Google has right now is, and on the YouTube front, things like Amazon launching ads on Prime, that's taking a lot of ad revenue that would have gone to YouTube, or ads on Netflix, ads on Disney. But they also are going to benefit from a presidential election. So that's the one trading at a market multiple that if they can kind of decide, all right, we're going to go all in on AI, and you know, we'll deal with the fact it may kill off some of our search revenues, that's when it gets really exciting, because that's the one that's a market multiple but has a huge amount of training data to train AI models. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay.
So to recap, Dan Niles says the Magnificent Seven is no more. Says it should be renamed the Fantastic Four, which would be Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, and Nvidia. That would exclude Google, Apple, and Tesla. He says he's dropping Google, stating lots of growing competition. He says AI's ChatGPT is taking Google search. It's much quicker and spends a lot less time searching around for your answer. YouTube and search results both missed on Google's earnings is another reason he dropped it. He said he dropped Apple because estimates were down for March and earnings are struggling and they have some major competition coming. He dropped Tesla because estimates went down for March as well. Their earnings are also struggling. And he says the competition is growing. Plus these interest rates are just demolishing Tesla right now. What do I think? I don't agree. I think the Magnificent Seven is still intact. Apple is just in a little consolidation period once they figure out how to put this AI onto the new iPhone, and then the only way to get it is to buy the new iPhone. That iPhone cycle is going to be gigantic. 1 billion people are going to have to get a brand new phone. Same with Tesla. Once they get these interest rates down and they have already priced out all of their competitors, they're the last one left, they can raise these prices. They'll have pricing power. They'll have robots. They'll have self-driving cars. They'll have everything in just a couple of years. Just give it to them, guys. And then Google, they've had major competition before. Bing, Apple, everybody's tried. Firefox. There's 1 billion different people that try to knock off Google. It's not going to happen, guys. They're the leading data in the entire world. So if anybody can figure it out with data, they can figure it out. Mr. Dan's top stock pick out of all of them is Meta. He says it's the cheapest, best, fastest growing one right now. Google, Apple, and Tesla all underperform the markets. And he said Meta, Amazon, and Microsoft, and Nvidia are all outperforming. There's just the last nail in the coffin on why he said it should be the Fantastic Four. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one.